That feels like 15 seconds. I'm gonna roll with it. All right, so welcome everybody to the March 17th Design Review Commission meeting. I'm gonna go ahead and start with our roll call.
Yes, Madam Chair. Commissioner Killian.
Here.
Commissioner Krilling.
Here.
Commissioner Gorney.
Here.
Vice Chair Valia.
Wow, here.
And Chair Case.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Awesome. Okay, so thank you. This evening's meeting is by teleconference only. It will be conducted pursuant to the provisions of the governor's executive order. To provide live remote comment, feel free to join our Zoom meeting. The Zoom meeting number is 956-585-79287. And the password for that is 923815. And if you do wish to provide public comment from the Zoom meeting, please use the raise hand feature. Okay, so let's move on to item number 2, consent calendar. Are there any items that a commissioner would wish to pull for discussion?
Nothing on the consent calendar, Madam Chair.
Okay, and does any member of the public wish to comment on an item on the consent calendar? But seeing as there are none, I'm guessing no. Okay, number 3, public communications. So this portion of the meeting is reserved for comments on an item not on the agenda. Any emails? Is that what I heard?
Looking for emails.
Okay.
Okay, not seeing any emails and no hands raised. Although we do have several folks in the waiting in the wings, I believe, on the items tonight. So, but nothing from the public.
Wonderful. So with that, let's move to our public hearings. So we'll be starting with our project that is the Shake Shack remodel and takeout window. So is there a staff presentation available? Hi, Haley.
Hi, yes, thank you. All right, good evening, commissioners. My name is Haley Crawford, Associate Planner here with the City of Walnut Creek. Tonight, I will be presenting the Shake Shack remodel. This is a study session with Design Review Commission, and the project is located at 1604 Mount Diablo Boulevard. I'll start with just some site context to orient us. The site's located on the corner of Mount Diablo Boulevard and Locust Street. It is the former Destination Maternity Retail Building. The site itself, as you can see here in the images, contains a 2-story freestanding building, and there is a parking lot that wraps the north and west corners of the lot. The site is accessed through a one-way driveway off off Locust Street, and then exiting off Mount Diablo Boulevard. Here's just a little bit closer view of the existing site plan. The site, as I mentioned, has that paved parking lot that is shared with the tenants to the north and to the west as well. So tonight, Shake Shack is seeking a design review for exterior building remodel and facade modifications. They're also proposing a new outdoor patio along both frontages, color material palette for the building, and some new signage. The project also requires a conditional use permit from the Planning Commission for an exterior takeout window that's proposed on the south facade. And just a quick kind of timeline, this is our first meeting with the DRC for the study session. If the DRC passes on a positive recommendation, next step would be the Planning Commission for consideration of that conditional use permit, and then it will return back to the Design Review Commission for final design review. So I'll start with the proposed site improvements, and then we'll move on to the proposed building modifications. So one of the main ones being whenever you convert a retail building to a restaurant, one of the biggest constraints is trash enclosures. And so currently Shake Shack is proposing an exterior trash enclosure on the northwest corner of the building. In order to achieve this, they are actually bumping in the ground floor wall a few feet along this frontage to put the trash enclosure kind of recessed in that space. So as a result, there is a small decrease of floor area on the first floor. I'll just point out in this image here that staff is still reviewing this and does have some concerns with the circulation. The trash enclosure projects out farther than the existing building does, and so it does restrict circulation in this area. Republic Services has also provided some comments, and they also share those concerns and that they do not believe a trash truck could make that sharp corner. And so one of the items that we're looking for comment and feedback on tonight is some potential solutions and other locations for that trash enclosure. I will also tie in that there's an existing parking stall located at this area, just farther south, closer to Mount Diablo Boulevard. And as a result of the trash enclosure, that parking stall is required to shift farther south. And the new location creates a safety concern because a potential car, in order to park in that stall, would need to pull out into the right of way in order to back into that stall. And so staff is also requesting that that stall be eliminated. And so a potential solution to both of these issues could be to relocate that trash enclosure into this space, somewhere along this frontage where that stall was. It would eliminate the safety concern of a parking stall there. And it would also allow a trash truck and vehicles to better circulate in that parking lot. I know the applicant has also been exploring other solutions as well that I believe they will be presenting tonight. But I'll leave that here for you guys to consider and comment on. The other site improvements are the 2 outdoor patio areas on Mount Diablo Boulevard and Locust Street. The city's engineering department has a requirement that an 8-foot clearance be maintained on all sidewalks. So that would be between any patio barrier or furniture and existing street trees or planters. There needs to be an 8-foot clear. And so the applicant has worked hard to design their patio along both frontages in a way that maintains that clearance. I'll show you some proposed floor plans. As I mentioned, there is a reduction of floor area to accommodate that ground floor trash enclosure. And as a result, the interior stair has also moved to just shifted in response to that. And then the second floor, the current retail or the previous retail space had an entire kind of second floor area up there for their business. Shake Shack is proposing to reduce the amount of floor area. You see here on the, well, maybe my cursor won't move, but on the east side of the building, or east side of the second floor, is a double height space. So that where the X is through, that is open to below. And a proposed roof plan here, seeing as this is a proposed restaurant tenant, there is obviously some ventilation and other equipment that is needed. The other item that staff is seeking more information on and comments on are screening of all this new rooftop equipment. The applicant will be presenting some screening options tonight, and we will ensure that all new equipment is screened. So moving on to the architectural changes, I'll start on the south elevation, which is Mount Diablo Boulevard, the primary facade for Shake Shack. A lot of these changes are going to be consistent across all facades. The existing elevation is shown here on the upper right-hand side of your screen, or excuse me, left-hand side of your screen, and then the proposed is below. And so on all elevations, the existing windows are going to be modified. The arches on the second floor windows are going to be squared off. All of the former black fabric awnings associated with the former retail use are going to be removed. And of course, all the previous signage will be removed. And so looking at the proposed exterior elevation, the former primary entrance was closer to the Mount Diablo Locust Street corner. It is proposed to be shifted one bay west, so it's more centered on the building facade. And the takeout window, as I mentioned, which requires that conditional use permit, is just west of the new centered entrance. And that's an exterior window. I have some more information on that later in the presentation. And then finally, I'll just mention that there is a new proposed canopy that runs along most of this facade, and it does wrap the corner along Locust Street. And it also contains, or the proposed signage will be mounted to that canopy. So now turning the corner, looking at the east elevation along Locust Street. The same changes as I mentioned to the windows on the second story. The two entrances that are existing will be maintained along Locust Street. And you see here also that canopy that wraps the corner with the signage. The north elevation, which faces the driveway, the interior driveway off Locust Street, the applicant is proposing to eliminate the second floor and ground floor windows. And one of staff's comments and concerns is that this just creates a potential blank wall. Although it's interior, this is a standalone building, and so you really do see it from all sides. And so staff would be looking to maintain those windows. And if needed, we could explore like an opaque film on the windows if it was necessary for the interior operations. And then the west elevation, as I mentioned, the trash enclosure is proposed on the ground floor of this elevation. One item that staff is looking for input on, and also for additional information from the applicant, is the door that is shown on the elevations. It's not shown on the rendering, but it's shown on the elevations at the second floor above the trash enclosure. It's meant to be an access door for a utility platform located on the interior. But staff has some concerns about access and about the just general look of a door floating on the second floor. So we'll be looking for comments on that. And then lastly, I'll just point out that on this elevation, the ground floor windows have a opaque graphic on them, and staff is recommending, well, first and foremost, that the graphic be eliminated. It does constitute as advertising and has some images specific and unique to Shake Shack advertising. And if needed, again, could explore some sort of opaque solid film, without the graphic images on it, or potentially something in just a neutral color. So just to quickly summarize the comments on the architectural changes, staff's looking for more information and some comments on rooftop mechanical screening, that proposed second floor door on the west elevation above the trash enclosure, recommending retaining the windows on that north elevation facing that interior driveway, eliminating the first floor window graphics, adding windowsills. I may have forgot to mention that at the second floor windows, the existing building does have sills on those windows and the applicant has not shown them in their proposed drawings. And so staff is looking to potentially retain those. And ensure that the trash enclosure meets all the standards, including having a solid roof. And so I will move on to just the signage. As I mentioned, Shake Shack is proposing their primary signage to be pin-mounted individual letters on that canopy. The letters and logo actually themselves are both 18 inches and will be face lit. Staff has some concerns, a few concerns, and just seeking some comments on the signage. One being that both signs are focused around the corner, and staff feels that at most angles, both of those signs would be very visible. And so is looking to potentially separate those signs a bit and center them each on the canopy so that they are more distant and can read individually instead of together. So it's a little bit less overwhelming for the corner. Also, there has just been some concern in the past about the brightness of white letters, face-lit white letters. So staff is seeking feedback on that. And then, although staff is supportive of, the general location of the sign, I'll just mention that pin-mounted canopy signs, because they're not mounted directly to the wall, they do require a sign ordinance exception, and the DRC would be the body that would be considering that, and so seeking your input on that as well. And lastly, I'll end just with the takeout window. As I mentioned, this is along the south facade, along facing Mount Diablo Boulevard. The takeout window itself and the area dedicated to the takeout window is subject to a conditional use permit. So Planning Commission will be making a determination on that. But DRC, we're hoping can make a positive recommendation on that to the Planning Commission for their consideration. Attached to your packet tonight was a narrative from the applicant that kind of explains how their takeout window works. But essentially, it's an app-based system, and so customers would not actually be ordering from the window. They only would come to the window when their order was ready and when their name showed up on this board, and when their food is ready to pick up. And so there that reduces the queuing around the window because customers are not waiting in line to order. Staff is just seeking comments and feedback on the pickup notification board, seeing as it will be illuminated and on a primary facade. If there's any comments or concerns about that. And then there is just another sign that'll be hanging in the window from the interior, marking this as the pickup window. So tonight, as I mentioned, this is a study session, and so staff is just recommending that the DRC provide comments to the applicant on the proposed building modifications, the outdoor patio areas, and the signage, and also provide a positive recommendation on the proposed exterior takeout window. I'm here if you have any questions. I do know the applicant has a presentation prepared tonight as well, and they have also reviewed staff's comments and concerns, and they have some solutions that they'll be presenting tonight. I just want to preface that by saying that staff hasn't reviewed any of the solutions, especially with the trash enclosure. And so while we're open to looking at all solutions, just keep in mind that we would need to review everything that is different from the submitted drawings to make sure that it adheres to all of our standards and rules. So with that, I will be here for any questions.
Okay, thank you, Haley. So do any commissioners have questions of staff?
I have one.
All right.
Haley, what's the basis for the 8-foot setback from the sidewalks, I guess?
So it's a clearance. And so it's essentially just to provide, especially in the pedestrian retail zone, where we have a lot of pedestrian traffic. It's just to ensure that there's, a wide, safe path of travel for everyone. I believe on Mount Diablo Boulevard for other projects, they have even, DRC has even required up to 10 feet clearance. 8 is the minimum that we will consider in terms of providing a safe, wide enough path of travel. I do believe we also have a representative, Ryan Cook from engineering too, if there's anything I'm missing. But that's kind of what I believe, the gist of it.
Okay, so it's based more on a aesthetics or whatever. It's not based on an ADA requirement or utilities or anything of that nature?
No, I think it's beyond what an ADA path would be, but it's meant to kind of it's for all, it's especially for downtown where there's a lot of pedestrian traffic to encourage.
And my last question is, the 2 little perimeter planters that we're seeing in this illustration, are those maintained by the city? That's in the right of way, I believe.
Yes, they are in the right of way. And
those are city planters?
Yes.
Thank you.
I had a question about those planners too, so I'm just going to ask while it's on our frame of mind. Is there an opportunity to do improvements in those planners with this, or is that right-of-way distinction going to prevent that from happening?
Obviously we're, open to suggestions. I'm not sure it would be something that could be a requirement, but if it's, something that's desired, we can definitely consider that.
Okay, great. Okay, other questions of staff? Joseph?
I got 4. Are both of the signs on the awning within the square footages allowed?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Do they have an art component to this for the money they're spending?
Actually, that's a good point that I forgot to mention. We are still looking into the triggers for the public art.
Okay.
So it's a potential.
But if it was, and they wanted to do those window graphics as something that was not advertising, just to kind of screen the windows, they could do that possibly?
It's possible. They would need to go through the Arts Commission kind of process. So if that was something that an artist, wanted to do, I think it would be possible.
Mm-hmm. Third one, the green. It shows up really bright on our on screens, and when I looked at it, have you looked? And I also went on their website, and there's a certain green. Have you seen the actual green proposed?
The only so far, the only paint kind of chips that have been submitted have been on the printed page. We can get actual paint swatches for definitely by final design review.
Okay, cool. And then on a future building on that north side, eventually somebody may build there. Does that change the parking requirements for this building? Like if somebody builds there, do they have to pay in lieu fees for this building, or is it all on one property?
It's not all on one property, so they're shared between 3 properties. The 3 properties, though, are under common ownership. Mm-hmm. But parking is triggered anytime there's a major alteration. So if the building, either to the north or to the west, were to undertake a major alteration, which would be, a change of use, that would trigger an increase in the parking requirement, or a significant remodel, an addition of square footage, then that would change the parking on site, but it wouldn't. That applicant would be responsible for meeting the parking standards.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Charles, Carlos?
I don't.
Joseph covered mine when he asked about colors.
Great. Any from you, Carlos?
And I'll wait for the presentation from the applicant.
Okay, I had one question that dovetails on what Commissioner Gorney said. So if the graphics in the windows weren't considered to be on brand with Shake Shack and their advertising, would that still need to go through Arts Commission?
I would need to look into the specifics. I know, something that constitute a mural, and I would need to look at the definition of a mural, like if window graphics would would count, but that does go through the Arts Commission. And it would need to, any sort of imagery of burgers or anything related to the business that would have to be eliminated. It couldn't contain any reference, so it would have to be purely artistic. But it would still need to go to the Arts Commission if we considered a mural, which my guess would be that would be more similar to what you were asking.
Okay. Okay. All right. So is there a presentation from the applicant?
Yes.
Thank you.
You ready?
We are ready.
Okay. Well, thank you, commissioners. Good evening. My name is Craig Lazareski, and I am representing the project sponsor, Greater Bay Development, which is the owner of the building, has been the owner of the building for about 30 years. This will be a very short introduction before we get to the project architects who will address staff concerns. Greater Bay has been in business in downtown Walnut Creek since 1960, early 1960s, and we've built, my father and I, and now my sons have built a number of smaller buildings, many of which I wish we still owned. But we're a small company, and this is a very important piece of our business portfolio. Currently, my sons, Mark Lazareski and Ben Lazareski, are assisting me in development, and they're doing a great job, along with my nephew, Jed Peters, who has interacted with staff. Jed is not with us tonight because he is ill and recovering. Just two comments I'd like to make. First, this is a gateway property. We are really pleased with the appearance of the building and how Mark DiMolanta and Jennifer Fong have prepared this and presented it to us. And we have worked through a lot of issues and design issues, and we're very, very pleased with it. We think it's a beautiful addition to this gateway piece. Second, and just as important, is that we really are excited about the fact that we believe that this will be a spark for the historic downtown, particularly now, after we've gone through this horrific last year and the devastation of our retail and restaurant community, that this will really assist the, I guess, almost the economic revitalization of the downtown core. And bringing Shake Shack and their commitment to the community into this site will really generate, I believe, and we all believe, and our team, that this will generate a tremendous amount of investment and interest, both from other businesses, other retail businesses, and of course, people. It'll bring them back to the downtown. So we're very excited about that. With that, I'd like to introduce Mark DiMolanta, who is the project architect. He'll go through many of the staff concerns and have some issues, some ways of solving and addressing those concerns. So Mark, you want to take it away?
Thank you, Craig. Again, my name is Mark DiMolanta. I'm an architect for the state of California, and my office is based in San Francisco. I wanted to cater my presentation based on the staff report. So I'm going to share my screen. Since we received the report on Monday, we've been hard at work to work with the stakeholders and the ownership, as well as studying what the staff wanted us to accomplish. The first one that we have on the list is the trash enclosure. So what we did since Monday was we went ahead and reduced the trash enclosure, which used to stick out an additional 3 feet. So now everything will stay within the current footprint. So that's kind of a change based on what you have on your pamphlets right now. We're able to still meet the proper trash needs for Shake Shack, as well as what the sanitary will want us to have too. So as you know it, the parking will not change, no change at all right now. The second on the list was the roof screens. So the current screens will align with the higher portion of the roof, and I'll show that in the next slide. These are views of 3D renderings of eye level, what you might see of the building. The new the new screen would line up with the existing roof line on the higher roof line right now. This is how this system is how the system will be held up, but essentially the more higher portion would be on the parking lot side. When you see from the corner, you barely see the height of the roof screen. These are the elevations showing the roof screens. And then now the backside showing the trash enclosure. I'll show you the floor plan in a little bit, but we did eliminate the door that was on this elevation, the one that was Haley mentioned to be the storage unit above the trash. But again, everything is now flushed and meets all of the requirements needed for trash. This being the signage and the exterior colors. Again, this is in the packet that you would have received already. And what we did here is we added the windows that Haley was talking about. And again, we will work with Haley on the infill of the glass, but right now we're in agreement that we can just make it opaque, an opaque film that will go on the glass. This showing the other side that had the graphic on your previous, or I guess on your current packet. Again, these windows will be now also just opaque windows. Signage, these signs are not lit. We're aware of the signage ordinance, so we're sticking with that. There's no face lit sign. I think there's some confusion on that, but just wanted to clarify that. The window signage, as you spoke about, we can work with staff on that as well. This showing the outdoor seating and the type of furniture we want to use, fairly straightforward. And now showing the floor plan and how we will have the trash enclosure tucked into the building, and no issue on the turning, or no issues on protrusion or the parking lot. Just showing the second floor and how we address the stair had to be changed for the exiting requirements for the building. Just a point of reference of what we're doing on the interior with the seating and the cook lines, as well as the second floor, and some point of reference for the exterior existing conditions. I wanted to reserve a lot of time for your specific questions, but we definitely enjoyed working with Haley. When we received her comments on Monday, we went straight to work on trying to address them. So she did not get to see this in advance, and we just sent it to her this afternoon. It was fresh off of our plate, but we hope you see that we were working with it and we can resolve any issues, or I can answer any questions you guys might have. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so do any commissioners have questions of the applicant? Commissioner Gorney?
I had a couple. I asked about the green originally. Again, the renderings is quite bright, and there's a pretty bright green on the website for the company. Is that close to the green you propose?
You know, the screens, as you know, is gets changed on your screen and what I have on mine and my monitor. But I do have the samples here, and what I could do is I could give it to Haley. Mm-hmm. But just seeing them on the screen, I hope you could tell it's not as maybe intense of a contrast as what you might see on your screen. Yeah,
it's going to be an important part of the final decision for sure. A question on the takeout window. Is that like a stock height you have to have? I realize the sill is an accessibility thing. is probably a stock size window because the transom above it is really taller than the other ones and nothing lines up. I was just wondering, is that something you can make line up, or does that window just have to be at that size for health reasons or whatever?
Let me, I'm gonna pull it in. Sorry, I'm gonna,
There you go.
yeah, put us in that screen. But
That one.
there you go. We lined it up with these.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that what you were referring to?
No, the transom itself between them, right there.
So they have a, I'm so sorry that I forgot the terminology, Haley. Maybe you can help me, but they have the pressure, I'm so sorry, the pressure wind, the air curtain, I'm sorry.
Right.
The air curtain that's gonna go there. That air curtain, I could pull up the spec, but I believe it's about 6 or 8 inches.
Right.
And because of that, that's where that kind of comes from.
And the air, I mean, I don't mind the thickness of it. It's just that the window above is much taller than the others. Nothing lines up. And so I was just wondering, can the air curtain be brought up? I mean, maybe it can. It's something you'll have to look into. I realize you may not be able to answer it now, but it's the one thing that looks a little awkward on that window is the height of the transom.
I understand what you're saying, and I think we'll study that.
Okay, cool. And then also, while you have that one up, the windows, I mean, the upper windows are all gridded. The lower ones, have, just sort of large transom kind of grids, which I think looks fine. For whatever reason, on the main door there, you didn't put even the top transom on the 2 side lights. I was just wondering if there's a reason for doing that.
No specific reason. We felt there was enough going on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just asking. Okay. I would consider it just because, but maybe it just makes it boring. I don't know. So that was one of those things. I'm assuming your takeout on the south just has to do with your overall plan because I guess the kitchen is in the back.
Yes.
It just seemed to me it would have wanted to be on the east just because it's more busy street, but I get it. I kind of assume because it's out by the kitchen, that made sense. In general, on the windows, are the metal windows set in so there's a little bit of relief? They look very flat in the elevations, like they're all the way to the outside. I think the building itself has some, was like 8-inch deep walls or something. I'm assuming when you install those, you're going to put them either midway or set in a certain amount, so there'll be some recess on them.
Yes, we generally like to pull it in just for waterproofing issues, but offhand, maybe you might see it as at about 1.5 inches inset from the face of the window. You'll get a slight shadow, but we tend not to make it flush. Just to
flush
help.
on the outside, that would not look right at all. There needs to be some relief on that. 1.5 inches sounds a little light to me. Particularly depends on how wide the wall is. So it's something we'll be looking for. This is a study session, so a little looser. It's something I'll be looking for anyway in the final, because I think there's a lot of potential to give this building that mass look, and it doesn't show up in the renderings as they are right now. So I just want you to pay attention to that. And any thoughts on the sills, adding the sills back in up above? I didn't really get a chance to look at them closely. I mean, looks like you have sills here, more of so you've added a sill to the upper windows and the lower windows?
Yes, we added them.
Okay. Perfect. Those are my only questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sorry, one other quick question. I noticed some of on the canopy there, some of the gray vertical pilasters don't have the little hangers or the brackets on them right there.
Yes.
I mean, just miss it in the rendering, I guess.
Yes.
Okay, that's all. Thank you. Honestly, that's all.
I just had one question, just kind of generally, what's going to the upstairs space going to be used for?
The upstairs is the main dining, the majority of the dining.
Oh, okay. I must have just not quite connected those dots when I looked at it the first time.
I got
Great.
that one.
Thank you.
And I do have a question going back to the windows. I mean, we loosely mentioned the word historic here, and wasn't there an opportunity to keep the windows as they were? And I mean, the arched windows, and it's like the image of the building that we already have there, and then change the colors, fine. change the interior, fine, use the exterior, fine, but shouldn't that be part of a consideration if this is a quote unquote historic piece of building in Walnut Creek?
Yes, I'll let Craig tell you more of the history, but these windows were added in the 80s, and I felt they probably didn't recognize the language of the squareness, my personal opinion. So the fact that this was put in about 19, if Craig could tell us the date on the 1980 something, I felt the squared off windows were better suited to the building.
Yes, can I address?
Let me make the consideration here that I'm not into arches or all those things gratuitously, but if those arches were there, and we're talking about a building that is part of the memory of Walnut Creek, 1980 to that's 40 years ago. 40 years ago. I thought it was a piece of the language that building speaks that could have been kept, and it wouldn't have changed any of the functioning or use of the building. But that's my take on the windows.
Yeah, I'd be interested to hear what they have to say, because I think originally that building had no windows at all as a Masonic temple. And so I'd be interested to find out what the history was.
Craig, would you enlighten us?
Yes, that's exactly correct, Commissioner Gorney. The building was a bunker when it was built for the Masonic Lodge. And when I don't take credit for this, I actually designed with a window system on an airplane one back in the 1980s. And we did the curved windows. Why we came up with that, I don't know, but and that's how we built it. So there were the history of the building from the historic perspective never had windows to begin with. The curved windows were just added as a part of kind of my design idea, and then gave it to my architect to figure it out. So.
With that being said, I wasn't married to the arches either, since I wasn't an arch guy myself.
Oddly, the building when it was originally built had arches on the lower windows and the doors. It was weird. You look at the old photos online.
Other questions of the applicant?
I have some.
All right.
On site planning, well, let me start with the signage. Picking up on what staff said, is there any problem with moving that sign that we're seeing in the illustration to the left that would be centered over the front doors?
So I included these images here on the right to show that this is their branding, that they're not on center of any of their shops or awnings throughout. So we're consistent with the brand, and that's why it's not placed in the center.
Okay. If
Hey,
it
Brian,
were to
can I
be
just
placed in the
comment on that?
center, what effect other than the branding is that it is doable, is it not, or?
Physically doable, brand-wise, very different than their national stores.
But I don't see double signs on your illustrations, which is the big problem here.
This one is the double sign one. I don't know the exact address, but there's another sign on the around the corner.
Okay. Let me move on from that. The parking around the corner. If that were to be removed, is that a big concern of Shake Shack or the applicant?
This parking?
Yes.
Not a big concern, as as it won't necessarily, let's say, affect the design or the product, but we would kind of yield to whether the I guess the whole property would, how that would be affected. So not opposed to it. but
We're just being a study session. I'm just throwing this out. It just seemed like it would free up the look between that and the Warby's glasses to where obviously this is kind of a not undeveloped, but a space, that's 3 different buildings. And as you're driving by, it's bits and pieces, that haven't all been brought together. And I'm just wondering if that parking space was not there, whether you'd have more freedom on your trash enclosure, maybe additional outdoor seating or more landscaping just to kind of tie the properties together. Where right now it's just a sea of asphalt and stucco walls, and it's not very inviting. So that's where I'm coming from at this point with that parking stall.
Yeah, we're not opposed to it. I think we agree that it would make for nice seating. The only thing that I think I would say is, as long as removing that parking wouldn't prolong the process, then we would easily love to have more outdoor seating.
Okay, let me
It
move
looks
to
like
your.
the owner has a response to that as well.
Yeah, if I may, and I know that you folks don't like to hear things like this, but the economics of the project are very thin. And my concern was in lieu of fee, if we remove the parking space. Now, I agree with Commissioner Killian that it would be lovely to have outdoor seating there. And I think it would make a beautiful street scene to have that, integrate those 2 buildings, to have the outdoor seating in addition. In fact, I'm sure Shake Shack would like that as well. But my problem is I don't know, I forget what the in lieu fee is for that parking stall, but I think it's pretty expensive. I don't know, Ken, can you answer that or?
Yeah, there would be a fee, in lieu fee. Parking is at such a premium downtown that anytime any space is eliminated, would require it would require an in lieu fee that would have to be approved by the city council. So we'd have to go to city council, and the applicant would have to pay a fee for the loss of the stall as well.
Yeah, so may I respond to that? Yeah, that would be my concern. We're in a place right now because of the COVID situation in an empty building for the last year plus and we're not going to be able to see any revenue from our product until probably this time next year in 22. So we're very concerned about speed and getting this thing off and running. So would appreciate your consideration of that issue. I know it's not a design issue, but it's certainly a practical issue for us that we have to consider. But I have to say, Commissioner Killian, I agree with you. I think it would be wonderful if we could put outdoor seating there, but I just think practically it would really hurt us.
I understand. Staying with that outdoor seating, let me go to the front elevation. And I'm going to kind of wrap my questions because there's several concerns, but the outdoor seating, and I saw now, I understand why you did it. You're kind of limited by that 8-foot setback, but to me, that's just too tight. And I'm wondering, it was arbitrary where you took that setback line from the edge of the ramp, and whether there's any give to what I'm trying to do is see if you can increase that outdoor seating to really make it, instead of 4 tables that are very tight. I don't see any trash containers out there, just for putting the envelopes, the receipts or whatever, the normal stuff that outdoor, diners would generate. And it would be nice, that could grow by a couple of feet. I think just the impact along the street would be a public, benefit the public. In addition to that, the 2 little planters are really just kind of a nod, they're so small. I wonder, how they're going to be irrigated and maintained, and during the hot summer months, if they're just going to end up being a space where people put their empty drink cups in and so forth. So with that, if we go to the left of the takeout window, is an opportunity following the parallel to the sidewalk or the street, not the building, to where maybe there's another opportunity for a triangular planter there to kind of beef up a little bit of the greenery, maybe mimicking the planter that you have on the right side of the takeout window. So that's my concern. And then my last concern, how this all ties together, is your awning above it. It doesn't quite cover the outdoor seating. And the way the sun is, you're going to get full southern sun where that awning is really not going to protect anybody in that seating area. And even as it goes to the west, I suspect we're going to be in full sun. So then are we going to be faced with the owner trying to put some sort of sunshade screens, you know, to protect the diners out there, or they're not going to be sitting out there because the full sun in their face, or it's going to be too warm. So is there anything, maybe a modification to that awning or something that maybe could actually be usable to that outdoor seating? So I guess all that concern is this, you know, how this space to me just seems a little bit tight, and I like it. I just want to free it up if I can to make it more usable and practical.
Thank you, Commissioner. Just to point out how the shape was derived is we're right at the 8-foot minimum in clearance on the side and how it turns the corner. So this shape came from hitting the setback needed. We did have
Let
a
me stay
planner.
there. I just want to, I know I'm kind of, you know, on this, but if this is kind of an arbitrary thing from the city, you know, just for pedestrian, you know, 2x2 can walk by, can't they walk on the ramp? I mean, what prohibits them from still walking on that ramp? That's a very big ramp on the corner. And, you know, why are we taking the 8 feet from the edge of the ramp if that's an artificial distance? And, you know, and maybe the city engineer can answer that. What I'm trying to do is get you a little bit more room out there on your outdoor seating. And I'm questioning this 8 foot and where the measurements are taken from on that corner.
Well, one thing that is clear, Brian, is that once you access that ramp, you need a 5-foot landing on the top. So 5 foot is min. And nothing can encroach into those 5 feet.
Okay, so that we're still playing around with an extra 3 feet there.
Yes.
But
yes.
Again, it's my understanding the 8 feet doesn't come from an ADA requirement. That's kind of just the expression of downtown. We want some wide sidewalks, which I understand. But, you know, visually and practicality, you know, we probably have about 15 feet there. And I'm just trying to find ways to, you know, make that outdoor seating feel a little bit more comfortable and more usable.
I see Ryan Cook is available. Is there any clarity you can bring to that discussion point, or?
Yeah, absolutely. Ryan Cook, associate engineer with the city. The 8 foot is our city standard for sidewalk width within downtown. We sometimes allow down to 6 feet for pinch points, but 8 feet is what we're aiming for all the time, especially when we get to busy corners like this where you have a lot of pedestrian queuing just to even cross the street. It's something very important to try and maintain as much clearance through there as possible.
Okay, and normally it's 8 feet from what, back a curb?
It would for the path of travel going through, which we do not count the actual ramp portion as part of that.
Yeah, Brian, I'll just add too that the general plan calls for 10-foot sidewalks in the downtown area. We begrudgingly let engineering go down to 8 feet.
Yeah, and it was another one just a block down at 1532 Mount Diablo that was a very strict requirement that they maintain 10-foot clearance across the sidewalk there and didn't encroach into that with any sort of outdoor seating or anything. And that's just a block away.
Okay. All right, well, that was kind of my question and concern. Let's go to the back end of the building now, and then I'll wrap up my questions. Sorry. Right there, yeah. Yeah, I appreciate you leaving in the windows. I don't know, that makes, I don't think having the opaque windows do anything for me. I'd rather have to see some, the graphics or be able to see inside some light, but just to have some blacked out windows, I'm not in favor of that. So my question is regarding landscaping. You have some ivy there and everything, and maybe getting some vertical landscape elements there to help soften that also, or maybe some other solution to that blank wall, because however you look at it, unfortunately, I guess as you're coming down, what is that, Locust, heading south, you see that entire wall. And like I said, with this property, with the amount of asphalt and everything, maybe there's an opportunity to do something at least on the 1/3 between the corner of the building right there, and to rather add some vertical landscaping or do something else. Had you thought about that?
We did, but we'll definitely study it a little bit more now. There is a transformer here, which made it, again, just another obstacle for us to consider. But we'll study it.
While we're on the windows, I mean, why didn't you frame this windows like the other windows with the vertical gray column? Or, I mean, why didn't you frame them? No, I mean, go back to your. No. I mean, those fine, but I mean, you actually developed a theme here where you frame the windows and then you have the white inside. These are just punched in a blank wall. I mean, it loses the rhythm that you established in front.
Sure.
I'm talking about the vertical gray element between windows.
Here?
Yeah, like that one.
Yeah. So those were the existing
windows. Yeah. No, I understand. I understand that it doesn't have it right now, but it looks. I like the way it looks when you frame the windows like you did on the front elevation, on the front and side elevation. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So you're saying to put the window inside here, right?
No, not there, but the 4 windows that you have, I would have liked to see them frame as well.
Oh, okay. So add a new.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, because otherwise they're just punched windows, meaningless, blank, opaque windows. There's an intent there to work with a theme that you had established for the other elevation.
Yeah, I think, Carlos, I'm hearing you say make it look like that other wall that we're looking at, so it's harmonious.
With a lot more words. Yeah, thank you. You synthesized it. Thank you.
Got it.
Those existing pilasters built out?
There's a little bit, there's about a 2-inch
There is.
differentiation. Yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Okay,
I
so
have no more questions, Casey.
okay, I have just one question. The parking stall is just a little bee in my bonnet, right? So is there any way that could like be somewhere else? Because I hear you that it's a challenge, and I don't want to, prevent this for that. It just feels to me so unusable. it just doesn't. I don't know that someone would even realize it was there before they're already leaving the driveway, and it's a one-way entrance to that driveway. And I don't really want to bring the trash closer to the road, but I was trying to think, like, can the parking stall and the trash switch or just something, that's just bugging me. That parking stall is bugging me. And I think it sounds like everybody agrees, but I wanted to just ask if we've studied, can that parking stall occur somewhere else and not blow everything up?
We studied this parking lot even before the Shake Shack came into picture. I could honestly tell you, we cannot find another spot for another car. We purposely showed the dash lines of how the trucks go, would come in. And, although maybe it seems spacious, it's maxed out. So we would ultimately be losing a parking spot. And for that reason, I've not really wanting to touch the parking lot at all. We're showing the parking lot because it's needed to show the trash, but we've been diligently not touching the parking spot, any of the parking spots.
And then this may be a staff question then, but I mean, is there some consideration for where, because I feel like this parking stall is a detriment to the growth of this project, right? Creating more of a pedestrian friendly environment. It feels a little unsafe, in my mind. I'm like, okay, so my 3-year-old and I are picking up our stuff from the window, and I don't know, there's just something about it. So is there any scenario where if it's, it's not contributing to the overall goals of our downtown, that there can be a consideration, or just parking's just the end all be all?
Chair Case, I'll just jump in. You know what? It's still a parking stall in the downtown. It's a little tough. I totally get your take on that. It's just that when you eliminate parking, the municipal code says that you shall pay for it. So there's and all three of these properties together are way under parked as it is. So the city has felt that whenever we lose a parking stall, we have to kind of compensate for that somewhere else. So I get where you're coming from. I'll tell you, I park in that stall all the time when I'm going to Pete's Coffee. So it is definitely used. And if it was not there, I'd have to park somewhere else. I'll just tell you that. So I hear you. I'd rather see landscape. I'd rather see the whole place with landscape with no parking. How about that? And we'd have to make up all of that parking somewhere, though. And that's kind of the dilemma that we're in right now.
May I address the issue?
Yes, and then Commissioner Gorney had a comment as well.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Oh, okay, thank you. One of the things that you'll notice by reducing the size of the trash enclosure, and Mark, you might want to take your magic arrow there, your
Yes.
green marker. It does provide a lot of the ability for a car to come in and park directly into the space and then back in, instead of having to pull out into the pedestrian walkway. That was one of the benefits of reducing the size of the trash enclosure. Furthermore, I believe the space measures at 22 feet, Mark, is that correct?
26.
26 feet, which is exactly, or within the city standards, it's in the high end of the city standards for the size of the parking space. So Commissioner Case, I share your concern, but I think we can solve that by maybe putting a planter box in front of the parking stall. I don't want to say bollard because I don't like the looks of the bollards, but some sort of planter perhaps. I think it would fit perfectly because the space does meet parking requirements. It's just accessing it. And I think we can do that by reducing the size of the trashing enclosure.
Okay, Commissioner Gorney.
Who's going to park there is the manager of the restaurant. He's just going to back in and leave his car there. Question, and I realize why we have to move it, but does the city have anything about, like, let's put 6 motorcycle spaces there instead and get 6 motorcycles in there because it'd be really easy to get in and out? I mean, it just seems for parking use, that would be a better use of that space. I'm just curious if the city ever does that. I know they have some downtown. Engineering.
Yeah, I don't think there's an equate. We can't equate motorcycles with vehicles.
Yeah, you really should. Okay. Second one on the signs. I kind of like the signs shifted over. I really do on the awning. But the question is, if you shifted it to the right on the Main Street side or the Mount Diablo side, why not shift the other one all the way to the right on the Locust Street side, so that you're not just getting 2 signs in the corner, but both of them are offset? Just push the other one over.
I agree. I had the same question. So the one that's on, is it Locust?
Yeah, that one.
Pushing it closer to Pete's Coffee.
Yeah, just push it down that way. It's both off center the same way. I kind of like the way it looks like that, so I would have no issue with it off center. Maybe, the one on this side could probably shift maybe a foot or something to the left just to be more balanced. But I think if that one moved to the right, I think it'd be okay.
Mm-hmm.
So just a question. That's it.
We can definitely consider that. Yes.
So now,
Okay.
out of curiosity, what happened to that door that was leading to the void, the second story door that was on the initial renderings?
It was I could show the floor plan. It was the idea originally to, I'm sorry, to have the, this portion here to be a storage area, because code-wise, you can't have the door open into the stairwell. So there was no door there. So it was residual space from the exit way to just have a storage that would be accessed from the outside. But that's not necessary or needed anymore. So
Okay.
we'd rather not have that door.
Right.
That was always kind of, didn't sit well with us either. But it turned out to be, a much better situation like this.
That's a great solution. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions for the applicant? Okay, great. So at this time, we're going to open up for public comment. And as I mentioned earlier, if you're participating in our Zoom meeting, if you can utilize the raise hand feature to let us know you have a comment. And we'll give it a minute for our delay to catch up. And while we're doing that, being as this is a study session, is our action tonight, in addition to providing some feedback on Haley's inquiries, to decide whether or not we'd like to send it to Planning Commission to review the CUP? Is that our assignment?
Yeah, correct. So we're just looking for any comments, and then any comments that would be appropriate to send along to the Planning Commission with regard to that takeout window.
Okay.
That service.
And are we going to do, normally we do questions in the formal hearing, then we do a round of comments from commissioners. I didn't have questions, but I will have comments. So are we still following that flow?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
We'll do that. So I'm not seeing any takers wishing to pipe in on the public hearing.
Great.
And I don't, no emails came in either. We're always looking for emails that might come in as well. So none there either.
Okay, so, oh, I see one thing from the owner, although we've closed public comment. So can we open it back up for that?
Sure, you can do that.
Okay.
There, I'm sorry, Commissioner Case. There was an email that came in from that Haley shared with us.
Mhm.
That I don't know if you folks have seen that.
From
Yeah,
Brian Herrera. Yeah, we saw that.
Okay.
Yeah, posted online, so it's also available for the public.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so now bringing it back to the commission. I know Commissioner Curling had comments. He already confessed it, so take it away. You're muted.
Let me unmute there. Yes. Give me one moment. I took a few little notes. So I sort of in categories. So from looking at the building, I was looking at the old Masonic temple, which, I thought was an interesting looking building. I actually like and prefer the change to the square windows. And I think that pays, for at least from my opinion, more of a tribute to the old building. Granted, the old building had a door and a window, and we talked earlier about the arches. The old building had this very. I'm not an architect. I'm the resident at large member of the commission. It had that very slight arch, and I'm not sure what you would call that. But the new windows that went in the 80s actually never looked right to me in that building. That full radius arch. So I actually really appreciate the square windows. I think it makes the building look really, really nice. I'm personally okay with no windowsills because if you look at the historic building, it's pretty flat. And so the lack of sills actually made the building give a little bit more homage to the history to me. But either way is fine, but I just wanted to share that comment on that with the building. So those are my comments on the building. The green color, I'm not sure where I fall on the green color. Now, when I look at Shake Shack's website, clearly it's a part of their brand color scheme, that green. But if you look at on Google, all the different Shake Shack stores you can see in all the different buildings that they're in, I don't actually see a lot of the Shake Shack buildings having that green color. So perhaps a softer color might make more sense. So I just wanted to share that feedback. And I think I'm respectful of when there's a brand identity, but if that brand identity is not on every single iteration of the store, and it seems like the majority of the stores don't actually have that green except in the signage, I don't know if we need to go with that that color. With the pickup window, Commissioner Gorney had a great comment about the height of where the top and the bottom of the windows break. And then what I would add to that is, with that electronic sign on the right, do we actually need that interior hanging sign on that top portion of the window? It seems redundant because you've already got this, electronic, hey, I'm here, Charles's order's up. So that might be sufficient. And then we don't have to look at the hanging sign in the window. And then just finally, I'm thrilled to see Shake Shack coming to Walnut Creek. I think that's a great ad, great use for the business, the building, I mean. I remember, most of the time that I've been in and out of that building, it's when they had the Viking store and they had the cooking school upstairs. So Shake Shack brings food back to it. And I think Shake Shack is I think that's a good sort of business to have in Walnut Creek. I think a lot of people will dine there personally. And I've never been to a Shake Shack. So I'm not saying I love Shake Shack because I've been there. I'm excited to see places like that come to Walnut Creek. And the reason I'm talking about the business is I do believe, based on the charter, the Design Review Commission, economic viability is a part of our charter to look at, as well as the design of it. And so I'm really happy with that. And I'm really happy to see that you're trying to put in as much outdoor dining as you can. I think that's fantastic. I too would like to see that parking space go. Not only do I think outdoor dining would look better there, but I think when you talk about the aesthetics, looking at a car sitting there, unless it's somebody's beautiful antique car or something really cool, looking at somebody's just car sitting there in front of that building, I think is a big detractor. But I recognize, if we sort of let this parking spot go without some sort of in lieu fee, then every single developer is going to be coming back to the city asking for the same sort of treatment. So I get that, but I surely hate to see that there as well. Those are all my comments. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments from our commissioners?
Follow up, I kind of agree with Charles. I overall am in favor of this. Even with all my comments on the outside, I like what you're doing. I just wish, and again, we all had wishes, we wouldn't be here. But I think what you've done is okay. What I got a little bit concerns with, as I mentioned before, I'm not in favor just of blacking out the windows. I think there's got to be a better solution to that. It's hard to say, but the mechanical screen, your solution to that, I wasn't in favor of how you presented it, and it may have been because it was off the cuff. But to me, it looks like you're just adding on a square top hat on this building, and you're kind of ruining the clean lines. And I'm not sure how, if it's not visible, it's not an issue. But if we do see it, that seemed awkward to me and kind of took away from the purity of the building. So that kind of bothered me. And the only other thing I would have is again, the signage. I'm not really in favor. In fact, I'm opposed of those two signs at the corner. I would not be in favor of that. Now, whether you move one or both, and I still think one ought to be over the main door, or at a minimum, you move it back to where it lines up with the corner of the building and is not sticking out over the awning over the right of way. But again, I think those are overall minor issues in the overall design of it. So in general, I'm in favor of the project at this point. And As far as the planning commission, I see no problem with the takeout window, and I would recommend, that move forward.
Okay.
I'll piggyback on that. I'm in favor of the project. Thank you, Brian. I mean, you said exactly what I wanted to say. So takeout window, no problem with the takeout window. And again, the signage, it's one of my concerns as well. So that's something you have to work on. I hope you do find a good solution for those windows on the north side. Basically that's it. And I think it would be a huge concession letting you do graphics on those windows. I mean, even though it's not a historic building or anything, I don't want to see any graphics there that are promotional or commercial or anything like that.
Thank you. Commissioner Gorney.
Okay, yeah, I'm just going to dovetail that. I think it's generally positive on the building. I'm going to focus on some things I'll be looking at if it comes back. Again, I agree with the owners that it's a good location to kind of start working more with Locust Street and have a good, active use on the corner. I think also the architecture keeps some of the character of the original. I like that almost industrial feel of the upstairs. I keep thinking about what it will be like to be in that space, and I think it'll be quite a successful space. I agree on the signs. I think shifting the sign on the Mount Diablo side back so it maybe lines up at the corner, and pushing the other one to the right might fix it, but the two on the corner won't work. I do understand the cost of taking out that parking space, and I think it'll be horrendously expensive. And I agree with the owner that, if it has to be, it has to be. And I just, unfortunately, I know what it costs to do in lieu fees, and I think it's too high for what it is. And I think the city needs to look at it. I agree with Brian that, a little bit more outdoor seating would be nice. Locust Street has a lot of little two tops out along the sidewalk like that on some of the bagel shop and at Pete's, and I think it'll be okay. But a couple more planters, if you could fit them in, would be kind of nice. I don't mind the four kind of stripes on the north side, mainly because those stripes are built out like 2 inches. If you just added 2 more, I just don't want them to look kind of zebra-like with just a bunch of stripes on it. So for me, I wouldn't need to do that. I don't think it would really help the building that much. And what you do with the windows, I'm kind of I'm neutral on that at this point in time. The green, we have to look at the green really carefully, because the green that's in the renderings will not work. Again, the height of the transom, if it can go up a little bit so that window transom height is the same. The window depth is something I'll be looking at. And I like the idea of sills up there. Maybe not the ones that are there now, but something that kind of, I like the way it looks in the new rendering. So I'm positive about that. I think the screens need work. I wish the equipment could be pushed back from the corner a little bit. I think it's really in your face, and it's tough because we're on a study session and we don't really know what it's going to look like. But what we've seen so far, I think, is pretty tall and in your face. So I think we'll have to study that a little more. I think the pin mounted letters are fine, and the takeout window is fine.
Great, thank you. So I would love if the graphics in the windows could be a collaboration with the Arts Commission. I think that would be really fun. I love the stuff that we see on like our Big Belly recycling and things like that. I just think that could be really a cool nod to the community. The north elevation, I agree with Commissioner Gorney. I don't need to see the extra stripes, being as they're not an architectural element, but I do like the presentation you showed this evening where you added in the windows, because it did feel very back of house. And even just refreshing the planting, and Commissioner Killian mentioned maybe putting some vines that scale the facade, because it is a pretty visible side. And I recognize that it's fronting the parking lot, but there's a lot of foot traffic that occurs on that side. In my perfect world, we would be so much less car dependent, and we'd like string lights across there, and we'd have a whole little courtyard thing. But I recognize that that is not available to us, but I just wanted to throw it out there that I'm disappointed that we continue to have a system that like perpetuates this dependency on the car. Anyway, I don't mind the Mount Diablo sign all the way in the corner. I actually like the asymmetry of it, but I would like the locust one pushed a little further so they're not meeting at the corner of the intersection. And I am not trying to spend more money, but I do really like the experience a block away at Slice House, where there's an element in the median that protects some of the pedestrian eating experience a little bit from the car. And I don't think it necessarily has to be like a metal feature, the whole extravagant thing that's going on down there, but maybe even just another tree, like there's a small one that occurs there, something that can make that feel a little more protected. And this is just coming from somebody who would use that takeout window with kids. And I just feel more comfortable, and there's a little bit more of an edge there. So that's just something I'd like to consider. I think that's it. Other than that, I like it. I don't have issues with the green. I'd want to see it pan out. I feel like it's very on theme for St. Patrick's Day today. So for the most part, it sounded like our gang is all in favor of this moving to Planning Commission with the recommendation to pursue that conditional use permit. But I do see a hand raised from Commissioner Krelling.
Yeah, I just wanted to add for the record, because I didn't specifically say it, I too support the takeout window.
Great. And do we need a roll call for that? Or no? Okay.
No.
Okay. So. Okay, so I don't see any further comments. So with that, we're going to end our discussion of this item. Thank you, everyone. Riveting. Now we're going to move to our second project of the evening. Thank you, which is the John Muir Medical Center Outpatient Specialty Building. So do we have a staff report? Alan, yay, Alan.
Yes, we do, Madam Chair.
Alan's still here.
And I'm going to share my screen. Hopefully I can do this right. Okay, we're rolling. Good evening, commissioners, members of the public. My name is Alan Carrion, Associate Planner with the Community Development Department. The item before you this evening is the proposed John Muir Medical Center Outpatient Specialty Building. The request this evening is for final design review approval and issuance of a tree removal permit. The applicant and Mr. Herb Musa of Smith Group Architect and Michael Ronaldo, I believe, are in the room. I think that's the right way to say it. And we'll have a presentation also at the conclusion of my presentation. I did review the presentation prepared by Smith Group, and it's rather than be repetitive, I'll be paring mine down and let the majority of the design issues be addressed by the applicant, but I'll go over some highlights. And let's start in the beginning. The project is to demolish a couple of buildings known as the Tuolumne buildings. Totals about 65,000 square feet. The demolition of those buildings were approved back in 2019 by the Design Review Commission as part of the parking lot project. And in its place is to develop a 155,000 square foot medical office building, also referred to as hospital support building, medical office or outpatient specialty building. So those terms are interchangeable, depending on which document you look at. It would modify the existing parking lot, an existing parking lot. The refrontage improvements associated with this project. Again, removal of 8 trees. And this project is subject to providing public art as a component based on the criteria in the public art ordinance. A little bit of background, this item was filed recently, really in September 2020, and that was the first submittal of the plans. Those plans were reviewed at a study session before the Design Review Commission on November 18, 2020. And the materials prepared for that study session included staff's comments and recommendation as the initial review. The Design Review Commission provided comment at that hearing, and along with staff and the applicant went back and did further plan development and refinement based on that input and comments. And the applicant's response to Design Review Commission, also staff's requirements are included in the attachment of the staff report prepared this evening. The project site is the John Muir Medical Center campus. This is the main hospital 1601 Ignacio Valley Road, main site of the medical center. Over here is also the parking lot, and further over here is referred to as 230 La Casa Villa, and this is where the employee parking lot is located. And the project site is approximately in this location here. We take a look at an aerial. This is the basically the planned footprint to replace these buildings. This is a multi-story building and present a 2-story elevation on La Casa Villa. And the terrain here, it slopes down into the property and it will present a 3-story elevation on its north side. So just by wayfinding, this is referred to as north, south, east, and west. And we'll use those cardinal points throughout this presentation. We can see the parking garage here, recently constructed, and the East Bay Regional Trail, which along with the parking lot project is being rerouted from here to circumvent the parking lot. These are exhibits from the John Muir Master Plan, last updated by the City Council in 2016, along with an addendum for the environmental impact report. The planned location is right here. Again, it's about 49,000 square feet, and the building would span into this parking area. This driveway would move slightly easterly here, about I believe about 40 feet. And this is another exhibit from the master plan, shows conceptual locations of the hospital support building, including one over here at the La Casa Villa parking area or parking lot. And as you know, they will not be going forward with this, and instead construct the hospital support building or medical office building in this location. In terms of building zones and setbacks, again, here's the hospital support building zone with a 25-foot setback and also a 25-foot setback from the closest curve of this roundabout and entry drive aisle. And the proposal is consistent with that setback requirement and consistent with the location where the hospital support building was planned or is planned. This is the proposed site plan illustrating the building footprint. Here we have the south parking lot. This is generally, it's close to at grade with the La Casa Villa frontage, although again, the property slopes down. So La Casa Villa is actually at a higher elevation than, for example, this east-west drive aisle. On the east side of the building, we have a small parking lot here with a priority drop-off. And this here is a pickup and drop-off lanes turning out from the east-west main drive aisle. Part of this scope also includes work to the service yard. We have rerouted pedestrian paths, crosswalks, and sidewalks, etc. There is a screening provided here from the east-west drive aisle and to screen the service yard. And also taking note that the C3 basins, there's a C3 biofiltration basin here, and I believe small one here. But given the size of this building, a lot of the biofiltration is happening on this around the service yard, which is screened by layers of landscaping and a fence. In terms of the development sequence and consistency with the master plan, here we have the hospital support buildings listed as 200,000 square feet. And if you notice here, this demolition of the Tuolumne, so this would be constructed, that floor area, not quite 200,000, but at completion, it would be consistent with this phase of the master plan. In terms of height limits, the project site is within Zone B, And here we have a notation from the master plan of a 25-foot as measured from the curb. And that curb location is approximately at this point of the site. And so from that point up 25 feet would create a height envelope in which within which a building is allowed. This is the floor area summary. Move this here. Here we have the completion of the specialty building, 155-176, and it would comply with the maximum allowed floor area for the John Muir within John Muir master plan. Also comply with the floor area ratio and site lot coverage. And here we have the maximum floor area allowed per that plan development ordinance. To illustrate compliance with the height, this is the datum point, and as we can see, it's compliant with the 25 feet, including the 16-foot allowance for mechanical equipment screen on top of the building. So if we look at a full compliance, we have setback 25 feet from the Casa Via. Maximum floor area is compliant within that limitation. The floor area ratio also, and the lot coverage. And in terms of parking, the applicant's parking study, which is included in the agenda staff report this evening, is that it would they're required to have about 2,040 stalls, and with this project would end up at about 2,105 stalls. So it would be complying with the plan development ordinance for the John Muir master plan. Moving on to the building architecture and design. You saw this before at the November study session. Same material palette with orange tile here at the corner. One of the comments was to incorporate this on other portions of the building, which the applicant has done, and we'll look at that closer here in a second. So the main color of the building is a mix of gray, white, and you could say black due to the glazing. There's also two forms of stucco, two colors of stucco, metal panels, and mullions. Just some renderings from the applicant's package. Some of these include trees, and while some don't. The applicant will, in their presentation, show the landscaping effect between the building and the landscape. But here we have the northwest corner of the building, and with metal panels and a significant amount of glazing. Also in this view, you can see the turnout of the pickup and drop off lane. And here's more the front of the building here and the pickup and drop off lane. The pickup and drop off lane would have a colored surface. There weren't any details as far as the scoring or anything like that. In the plans, staff is recommending that the scoring of that surface could provide an opportunity for design, and so would recommend that scoring follow the curve to suggest a flow or a direction as it turns into the straight portion of it. Here on this elevation, we can see the use of the orange tile and the metal paneling on the building, and also notice this wing that comes out to further articulate the building. This is the east elevation of the proposed building. Here's that orange tile, and this is what's referred to as the east parking lot. And over here is the priority pickup and drop off for example, for ambulance delivery. Due to the grade of the site, there will be about a 10-foot retaining wall with stairs coming down, approximately in this location. If you take a look at your package, the sheet containing this rendering would actually show this view to be completely, basically screened by trees. So this is shown without trees. Also shown without trees, this would be the southeast corner of the building on that south parking lot. La Casa Villa would be here on our left. And we can see the building basically shaped like an L with its interplay of glazing and stucco and storefront systems on the ground floor. Moving on to the southwest corner of the building, the applicant has revised, whoops, let me back up, sorry about that. Has revised this corner elevation to include that orange tile along the base of the frontage, along La Casa Villa, and a vertical element here on the west elevation. The vertical transition, so this horizontal line, occurs at a break in plane, and with these renderings, staff couldn't determine whether this was on plane with this surface or whether it was offset. There is the applicant does have a fly through, and I believe has addressed this issue, and the tile would actually be set back a couple of inches, maybe 3 or 4 inches from this stucco elevation here to provide some depth. In this view also, we could see the poured concrete of the linear accelerator modules. There wasn't a lot of detail provided back in November on these, but this scoring pattern and I'll just call them the tie holes for the poured concrete, that is a detail that's consistent within the campus currently and is proposed for use on the linear accelerator module here on the west side of the building. In terms of tree removals, 73 trees were approved by the Design Review Commission back in 2019. Those are shown in blue. The applicant is requesting an additional 8 trees to be removed. These are shown in red and highlighted also. These trees were installed as part of the parking lot project when this was developed, so are you could say non-native or part of a previous landscape project on the site. The 8 trees include 4 London plane, 3 cork oaks, and 1 coast live oak. The coast live oak, which is located here, just next to the pedestrian path currently, is classified as highly protected, 9 inches, and as a highly protected tree, the applicant either has to preserve it or pay an in lieu fee for its removal. Staff is recommending that a tree removal mitigation fee be paid. The tree has been appraised at $1,400, and that's reflected in the draft resolution. Moving on to the site plan and landscaping plan. In terms of tree plantings, this would be commensurate with the tree canopy and landscaping that can be found on the existing campus, on the current campus itself. Along La Casa Villa, there'd be a row of London plane to grace the street. I believe these are London plane also in the parking lot. And on the east-west drive aisle, this would be Chinese pistache, and here would be smaller red buds. All the trees proposed are 36-inch box size, so that would give the development some instant scale and softening. I forgot to mention also that the south parking area, little leaf lindens are proposed in this location. Staff does have some concerns about some of the tree placements in these landscape fingers, since they may pose an obstruction to the adjoining parking stall. And that's something we can take a look at and adjust during site development phase. These little X's are proposed public art locations or potential public art locations. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 locations. The Design Review Commission is charged with making recommendation as far as these locations to the Arts Commission, who will administer the public arts program. So staff, as outlined in the report, is requesting that the Design Review Commission express their preference on these locations in numerical order, or provide other locations otherwise if any other location is perhaps better in the eyes of the Design Review Commission. Staff will take those comments, recommendations, and forward them to the Arts Commission. So we're looking for input on that this evening. Just one note that staff believes probably this is the least favorable location. Good exposure to the street, however, depending on the medium that's proposed and the scale, staff would say this is the least favored by staff, whereas the others seem to provide ample opportunity for arts observation and reflection. Staff recommendation is to provide input and recommendations to the Arts Commission on public art locations, and move to approve the design review entitlement tree removal permit for this project. And just some of the conditions contained in the draft resolution include amending the master sign program for the John Muir Medical Center to incorporate the outpatient specialty building, including as outlined or as discussed with the adjoining residents, some wayfinding signage to direct folks appropriately as to not enter the errantly entering the residential neighborhood to the east. Also recommending the tree removal mitigation fee, and we'll examine the parking lot configurations during permit review. And with that, I'm standing by for any questions or comments you may have. Thank you.
Okay, so commissioners, any questions of staff?
Me.
None from you. Okay. Commissioner Gorney, any questions? Nope. Commissioner Valia?
No.
Nope. Commissioner Krelling?
No, thank you.
My only question was, it for some reason it wasn't super obvious to me in the plans, but I may have just missed it. What is the reason for the removal of the highly protected tree? Are we realigning the parking lot and it conflicts with that? Okay.
Yes, it would include grading and realignment, grading of the site, and that tree would, I believe, be in the middle of a parking lot. Okay. And also be at a inappropriate elevation.
Okay. So a question on the art locations. So I understand that we want to give some directions to the Art Commission about priorities of location, but there's a part of me that wonders, is there an opportunity to allow like all of the site to be part of the canvas? Because I keep thinking about how, the mountains were used elsewhere on the site, and the mountains are by no means like one star on a plan. They're like a whole feature and experience. So I was trying to figure out, like, I want to provide feedback about where I like art, and I'd like it to be, visible to the community. So it's an element for them. But I also feel like picking a pinpoint spot feels like it's limiting some of the artist opportunity there.
Right, and I think because art can be in so many different forms, whether it's observed in 2 dimensions or in the round, there this sort of puts the cart before the horse.
Right.
But the commission's charge is to, perhaps you could qualify it that if it's an in the round item of or an item of scale, an art piece of scale in the round, that perhaps you could make that recommendation on where that kind of art would preferably go. That's a possibility.
Okay. All right. Sorry, I'm wrapping my head around that. Okay, so then I think that's all for my questions. Okay, so do we have a presentation from the applicant? Welcome. I see some new faces on our screens. It's a little wonky. It's kind of muddled and pretty loud. Now you're muted. Try it out again.
Sign language.
Yeah.
I'm afraid to try it again.
It's still a little crazy. We can probably understand it though. No, that one's pretty wild. That seemed to get worse.
I might suggest it might be worth having the applicant disconnect and reconnect. It's so distorted.
Mhm.
It was on with a phone too, and I turned that on and I turned it off, and it pulled the same. Did he have a phone with him? Yeah.
I use the phone.
Call-in number.
You know, while we're waiting, Chair Case, one thing we always hope is the applicant will start conversations with our arts program coordinator early on, and we might get some indication from Michael tonight, the applicant, on what they have in mind for artwork. And I think really all we're looking for from DRC tonight is, are there particular locations that would just be terrible for what they have in mind? And really that's what we're looking for. And you know what, whatever they come up with, if it's statuary or we'll have to ask what kind of artwork can be so diverse that it could be anything. And so you're right, finding a pinpoint location for anything is sometimes difficult. So we might want to ask Michael if they've started discussions with an artist, and what kind of artwork they're looking for. That may help us give us some direction on where what that location.
No, still not good.
Michael, do you have a phone with you? Maybe you could do a call-in, Michael, on your phone and just use the video and just use the audio from your phone.
I hear a buzzing from you, Michael.
Yep, yeah, Michael, are you on a phone?
I don't see his number coming up.
Hmm.
I have
We do still hear you, Michael. On your screen, you're still coming through with audio. I don't know if you're trying to connect by phone. Oh, we lost him. We scared him off.
Looks like he just dropped off.
Yeah.
He was speaking Martian. I understood everything he said.
Well,
So this is Sam D'Amico. I'm the architect with Smith Group, the design principal, and perhaps I can at least do part of the presentation and get it started.
That'd be great.
Okay,
Yes.
so it looks like I might be able to share screen, so I hope this works. So I'm going to go to.
You sound good, Sam.
Oh, good. And so I am going to try to get this. I know Michael was going to do the introduction. Can you see my screen? Okay. Can you see the PowerPoint? Okay.
Yes,
okay. Okay. Good. So first of all, I mean, Michael, Michael would be doing the presentation or introduction. Of course, he's our owner, and it's really a wonderful group to be working with, John Muir Health. And I'm going to be doing part of the presentation, and And Todd Coley, as our landscape architect, will be doing part of the presentation. I think you're well aware of all, there's a lot of team that takes to make a project, right? So there's a lot of folks involved, from architects to builders to civil engineers. We have Smith Group also is doing the landscape architecture, but Structural and Dagenkolb and Mazzetti and Fair and Piers doing their part for the parking. Just a quick overview, and I think you've already seen that from Alan, but just to quickly, the parts of the building, our site is where the Tuolumne buildings are, site E. And then you can see the new outpatient specialty center in that particular location, and just an oversight of we talked a little about the new trail and how that was going to get rerouted through here. The entitlements were well within the entitlements, as Alan pointed out, and how we're siting the building actually at this main entry at La Casa Villa in Montego, and we fit within the height criteria that we needed to do. This is after the building's in place, so you can see the L-shaped building. One of the things that we've been able to do is hold the building height down to the 25-foot with a 2-story on this side and a 3-story as the grade goes down, as Alan pointed out. Michael, are you there? Oh, okay, I'll keep going. So the vision, I know Michael would be saying a lot in more detail here, but it's UCSF Health and John Muir are developing this cancer network together for diagnosis of treatment of patients throughout the region. So it's a great partnership that they're working together on. It's essential to the network and the development of world-class specialty center. It's going to improve patient outcomes with this healing environment that's been created, a world-class cancer service closer to home, expanded service for clinical trials and disease-specific capabilities. And I know I'm missing some things, Michael. I'm doing the best I can. And then, of course, the schedule itself, excavation and rough grading is going on, and construction from August to December of 2021, and then the site development and foundations from 21 June to 21 December, and construction from 21 to June of 2022, and our building permit and construction. So one of the things that we were fortunate enough to have was to have the design review committee have a study session, and that really turned out to be really helpful to the design team. So we want to thank you for that. We actually believe the design has actually improved since that time. So we appreciate that involvement. We are going to address a lot of these. I won't read these all out, but we're going to address these comments during the presentation, such as the southwest corner that Alan talked about that needed some attention, some ADA parking and how we disperse that across the site, and some areas of respite. So starting with this illustrative plan here, the building that is located again at La Casa Villa in Montego, and the outpatient, the north entry is along John Muir Way, which is the main artery of the hospital. It's adjacent to the existing parking structure, so wayfinding is easy for patients that come on the north side, which is the main entry. The landscape design really reinforces the existing campus design and character. And Todd Coley, he's going to, our landscape architect, will share a little bit more later in the presentation. So in this one, it's about art and respite locations. So the green stars indicate the opportunities for public art. These preliminary locations provide a variety of spatial experiences. The lobby and the meditation garden enhance the patient experience, and the west location is predominantly located on a public path, providing visibility both for vehicles and pedestrians that are coming from the east lot. The blue circles highlight areas of respite, which was another comment from the DRC study session to help improve the patient, the pedestrian experience, and having several of them sprinkled across the site was something that we took to heart and started to integrate into the landscape design. So go to the, next one is about vehicular and pedestrian circulation. So the orange dotted really kind of shows that the ADA circulation path on the campus that connects to the building and connects to the campus as a whole. The blue is the existing ADA accessibility. And then the blue squares are ADA parking spaces, which we've distributed across the campus. So that it wasn't just located in one location. That was one thing we had before. So now moving into the building and this cross section, the section at the bottom shows the overall scale of the building as it relates to La Casa Villa and the neighbors across the street, and then the relationship to the existing parking structure. So you can see we really have the building is at the 25 feet really fits into the scale and character along La Casa Villa. The building section above shows the two lobbies. You have the north lobby to the right and the south lobby to the left, and they're both connected with this internal stair. So it really helps, wayfinding easy, and it makes the experience through the building very clear as you go through the building. So if we go to the next, so now we're going to have a series of aerials. This is from the southeast, and you can see some of the ADA parking that's been provided. The mechanical screen and equipment has been pulled back from La Casa Villa, so that part of that massing is as far back from La Casa Villa as possible. And La Casa Villa will continue that sort of tree-lined feel that exists already in front of the hospital. We're going to continue that feel along La Casa Villa. And bioswales are also incorporated in the landscape design for water management. This view from the northwest is highlighting the main entry off of John Muir Way, which is that main artery for the campus. Easy access to the existing parking structure and pedestrian walkways that connect to the campus, make wayfinding easy. And since there's no back door to this building, what we have is a tunnel that goes from the existing service area over by the parking structure under into our building, so that can be screened completely from the experience of the new building. Landscaping is of course provided to screen that service area as well. So that's also something that's been well integrated into the project. So now we're going to look at several views and sort of take you around the building. And you can see the little site plan up at the top right, and the red arrow indicates where we are as we walk around the building. This is the main entry off of La Casa Villa, which is the existing main hospital entry. So it'll also be the main entry for the project. So what we've done is we show some with trees, views with trees, and then some without trees, so you can start to see the architecture. So this view, of course, is without, but you can tell with the landscape, it really will soften the edge and enhance that experience as you're coming into the project. I'm going to move in a little bit closer to same angle. And so here we can talk about the fact that we've added some articulation to this corner to the building and to add some visual interest, which is one of the DRC's comments during our study sessions. And I think it's really improved this corner. We've introduced the campus stone that Alan talked about into it, so that it's something that's more integrated into the building. And the composition also just kind of reduces the scale of the building that we had previously. The window pattern responds to the programmatic needs, and they are also slightly recessed. What we've done is we've pulled the windows back about 6 inches, and then we've also included another recess of more stucco ephes, whatever you want, how you want to determine it. But we do have some shadow lines that are happening there. Now we did consider in one of the study sessions was to consider adding spandrel glass instead of the stucco recessed, And we just felt that the stucco added a little more detail than adding more glass and more articulation to the building. So we did stay with that particular part of the design. And if we move a little closer in, the exposed concrete, it is matching, as Alan pointed out. This is the existing hospital concrete, exposed architectural concrete. So we are going to match that for the linear accelerator. There is a bioretention area here that has some boulders and some landscaping here. So it's more of an enhancement than just a bioretention. And then there was a guardrail that's added on top of the Linax just for added safety and security. Okay, so this view is from La Casa Villa, and the L-shaped building mass does minimize that visual impact along the public face. So we think we've been successful in that regard. Oops, sorry. And this view is without the landscaping. We have a hierarchy of architectural elements to add visual interest to the building. The solid portion of the east wall adds to the composition. The DRC did suggest that we make this metal panel, but we decided to keep this wall in the same ephes material of the adjacent walls for continuity. And as I mentioned before, the building mass along La Casa Villa is kept to 2 stories to minimize the visual impact. This is a view without the landscaping. Oops, sorry, I'm having a little button problem. But thankfully you can hear me well. So now this view is from the southeast approach along La Casa Villa. Landscape buffer minimizes the building mass, providing a welcoming approach. And we've also added an area of respite in this location, this prominent pedestrian path along La Casa Villa. And without the trees, just to take a look at that. And you can really see the bulk of the massing, how we really did pay attention to trying to hold it back from the street edge. This view is from the south approach, south entry approach from the east parking structure. Landscaping, again, really improves the patient experience. And Todd and his team has done a great job at continuing the landscape across the campus. We added another area of respite here as well, again, so that it just sort of enhances that experience as you're approaching the building. And this, of course, is without the landscaping. And really, the building mass is really broken down in both form and exterior building materials as well. This is the south entry, which has has a 2-story lobby, just as does the north, as I showed in that section. The vehicular drop-off and plaza are provided in this particular location. This view shows the eastern pedestrian path, which connects La Casa Villa to John Muir Way, and the east parking lot has direct access to pedestrian circulation through breaks through the landscape. Was again another one of those comments I think DRC had, so that we could make pedestrian access from the east parking lot easy pedestrian movement across the site. Oh, sorry. And then of course, without the landscape, you get to see the building itself and the articulation. There is a grade change for this lower lot. However, we have a gentle slope with landscaping to mitigate the grade change. Now we're going to swing all the way around to the other side of the building, to the north side at John Muir Way. And this view is from the northwest adjacent if you're standing at the parking structure. We have taken architectural clues from the existing hospital to complement the building and architecture, such as this glass corner, which if you've been to the campus, you'll see that's an architectural feature that is across the campus. And you also saw that glass corner on the other side of the building as well. And we've also broken down the mass with a balance of, solid areas and void. And then the exterior material palettes relate to the existing hospital. They consist of the stucco, but we also have this metal accent wall here, which is predominant for the main entry for the hospital, the main feature for that part of the building. So we have, concrete, we have window wall, we have metal panels, and then we have some accents of stone that you've seen us thread through the building. And this is it without the landscaping. This view is from John Muir Way as well as you approach the north entry. To the right is a sunken garden area and courtyard for staff and patients. The courtyard is sunken from John Muir Way to provide protection from the vehicles. The landscape buffer is provided along the street edge. Western redbud trees add color and texture to the space. And in this view from the courtyard, looking back towards the existing parking structure, seating areas both in shade and in sun are provided, and then a wood look soffit is integrated into the architecture to add some warmth to the project. Another view of the courtyard area looking back towards the existing parking structure and the hospital in the distance. This is the meditation garden at the northwest corner and provides another area of respite. The sloped landscape up to Montego provides a natural landscape buffer, and some casual seating is available to staff and patients. It's just another view leading to the meditation garden. This wall right now is a blank wall. It's certainly one of our targeted possibilities for public art that we've been looking at. And there is that, I mentioned, that significant grade to Montego, but providing a good buffer from the vehicular traffic. This is the main north entry, which provides a canopy and a drop-off. And as Alan mentioned, there will be some integral colored concrete to help with the concrete paving and pattern to help. This is a designated area similar to the existing hospital. And then also for consistency, the drop-off zone uses some granite and some of the light bollards that are similar to the hospital drop-off to continue that continuity across the campus. And this last view is from the east approach and surface parking, the east parking lot with this existing parking structure over there to the right. And the design reinforces the campus internal street pedestrian along John Muir Way, as well as the vehicular. So makes for easy wayfinding, both from this building to the hospital as well. You can see the integration of the metal panel and the stone and the glass all coming together on this prominent facade. And then Alan kind of went through this already, but this is the color palette that you've seen with the stone that's carried through in accents across the building, colors of silver and white and gray to help add some articulation to the building. And then the two colors of the stucco, the lighter color and the gray color that happens below the sill, and some vision glass and some spandrel glass to help the overall composition. I do want to mention at this point that we do have an animation that if we have time at the end of our presentation, if time allows, we'd love to throw that in there. And I'm sure if anybody from John Muir Health wants to make any comments, I hope that they can say that at that time. But right now I'd like to pass it on. I really appreciate the opportunity to share the architecture, and again, appreciate the comments we got from the study session. I think we've got a great project, and appreciate the opportunity. And now Todd Coley will go through and describe the landscape design.
I just want to point out that our 15-minute allocation for the applicant presentation is up. So if you would mind doing it as swiftly as possible. that'd be
Okay,
great.
sorry.
No problem.
I'll do my best, Commissioner. My name's Todd Coley, landscape architect with Smith Group. I've just got five slides to show, but I wanted to reiterate that we've worked hard with the ownership to have a seamless as possible transition from the rest of the campus to this new project, whether it's furnishings, lighting, paving material, or the planting palette. This slide illustrates the 5 areas we designed to help with this continuity from streetscape to stormwater and focal points. In these next 4 slides, you'll see some of the same perspectives that Sam discussed, but with a focus on the planting design at that area. I just want to note that it's important to note that we've utilized the California native plantings and adapted plants. We've looked at lower maintenance, lower water use, appropriate plants for Walnut Creek, and commonly used plants for health and wellness. Last, we've also used the water use classification of landscape species for deriving the palette. So this first area is the southeast approach. You can see the respite area. You can see the continuity along the street. And you can see
which slide are you on? Is this, we're on the right slide? Yes. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Go. Yeah. Good. Sorry.
The little leaf linden that Alan discussed in the parking, and then native grasses and ground cover on the ground plane. You can go to the next slide. At the north entry, we're trying to use some color and some seasonal planting along with olfactory senses. Again, the streetscape tree being the London plane tree with kind of a common Berkeley sedge ground cover along that planting strip. And the red bud as some color accent. You can go to the next slide. Inside this north entry courtyard, kind of a healing courtyard. We've got, this is on the north side, so there's some shade. So we've got to use some shade tolerant plants. Again, some with smell like the thyme and the lavender, and again, the pop of color with the red buds. You can go to the next slide. And then you can see the east parking lot again, the little leaf lindens, the pistache, the grasses. This last slide, 45, is about lighting, and that we're trying to utilize as many of the existing lights that are on campus with a few new ones to properly light all the pedestrian and vehicular areas for safety. So I tried to expedite as quickly as possible.
Great, thank you so much. Okay, so let's take it back to our commissioners. Any questions for our applicant?
I have one, just one. What's the railing on top of the linear accelerator? It's just like this kind of a metal pipe to keep people from falling off of it?
Yes. Yeah, it's a simple rail. Yeah.
I was going to ask if the $1,400 mitigation fee was going to destroy the project, but I decided not to ask that. Thank you. That's my only question.
I have a couple of questions. Actually, staying on this slide here, I know I did. I don't know if some of the other commissioners had a concern with that 2-story wall that's by the entry. And I think Sam had indicated you decided to leave it as it was for the building massing or whatever.
Yeah.
I still have a concern. I mean, I don't see any other wall that's just a tall blank wall. You know, you always have a window, you have a different material or whatever, and this is the only spot that is just a big blank wall. So I still have a little bit of concern, and I'm not quite clear. You know, I see on this slide where you have the trees along La Casa Via, but you know, for people pulling into the parking lot or actually people on La Casa Via, you know, if they're really going to see that 2-story blank wall. So if you could maybe expand on that a little bit.
So this corner is where a stair is. And of course, we've maximized a lot of glass to the south. We just didn't feel like it needed any more glass. So there's a good length of that is actually part of the stair itself. So it's it's possible to maybe squeeze another window in, but we just felt like there was so much going on this facade already that the combination of the two-story glass piece here and all of the other things around it, we just felt like the composition really could handle a little bit of solid. Quite frankly, that was the approach.
Okay, my other question is a kind of a landscape question. On your drawings, you show a detail for metal edging. Where is that, or where do you use that? And specifically, what I'm wondering is if you're using that, if you look on your sheet L7.0, I don't know if you have that on screen or not, but the way your design is for your understory planting, you have a lot of these free-flowing curves with mass planting of different shrubs. And my concern is, well, it looks good on paper. The reality is, how are you going to ensure that those nice curves get planted that way and they're maintained that way? Is that where the metal edging is, to separate those those different plantings?
Todd, can you answer that?
Yeah, we have that between planting beds. I've used this before in the Bay Area. Obviously, I'm looking at the sheet that you discussed, 7.0. And we've discussed this with the maintenance team. So it's just to be sure that each zone is separated.
So it will be divided by your metal edging. That's where that detail occurs.
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, does anyone else have questions of the applicant? Okay, then I just wanted to, in general, ask, I know when you showed the potential respite areas that you also associated some green stars with art. And while we were trying to sort Michael's access, we talked a little bit about art, and if you guys had a vision or an idea of how you might want to integrate the art, because we've been tasked with assigning some preferences to locations. So if you had a vision for that, it'd be helpful for us to understand it, or let us know if maybe you don't.
Sam, can you guys hear me now?
Oh, yes.
Hey, I didn't want to interrupt. And one, I want to say thank you for the commission. The study session was really, really helpful. You had some really good comments, and what was really interesting is all your comments were focused on areas that we were struggling with. So the process works. Relative to the art, let me just give you my thought on that, because we've hired an art consultant to help us select one or more artists for the public art. And it may end up being one, it may end up being 3 locations. And I actually like your concept about having it be something that sort of, flows through. So on the one over by the meditation garden, we had that big solid wall as a canvas, so to speak. So we're looking at, can we do something a little bit more vertical that relates to creating a meditative healing environment? We certainly want one of those 2-story lobby that we've done that flows through the building. And when you think about the campus walking all the way from the parking lots through that lobby on this upper level down to the lower level, it's a great opportunity to experience something, 3-dimensional and from different angles. And then we struggle a little bit, if we didn't think out by La Casa Villa made sense. This is a little bit older diagram. We just had the respite area, but one where you're coming up to that entrance right there. Thank you. Coming from the parking lot, it's another opportunity that may get a lot of visibility. And there's a potential on when we pick the artists and what they propose, that these somehow might all tie together. They might not. I'll be honest, we all have a preconceived notion, and I'm actually trying to set those aside. So when we get the RFP responses from the artists, we can see that either they come up with 3 great ones that all tie together, or we decide to go with something a little bit more individualistic between them all, because we're the right thing for each one of those sites. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and so it sounds like you would potentially be amenable to something not necessarily being like a standalone little feature. So it could hypothetically be something that ran along the whole parking lot edge, or I don't know, it could be creative. Okay. Okay, any other questions of our applicant? I know we have several people in our Zoom audience, so I'd like to get to public comment. Anything else? Okay, so at this point, I'd like to open it up for public comment. And just a reminder, if you're participating in our Zoom meeting, if you can use the raise hand feature. We also appreciate, with respect to everyone's time, if we try to limit the comment to 2 minutes. Also, if you're representing a group as opposed to having each of you repeat similar things, please feel free to let us know you're representing a group, or you're welcome to stand or virtually stand and let us know that you have similar opinions to those speaking for you. So we appreciate that. So I'm gonna turn it over to whoever can facilitate. Who's up?
Okay, we have a Pam Wright who has been waiting patiently.
Great, thanks, Pam.
Yeah, so this is a question from a little while ago, but we were wondering if you were going to use this opportunity to bury some of the electrical cables that run through, because if you're going to do this landscaping in that area and if you're going to be digging up this region, it seems like it would make sense to work with the local utility to also bury some of those wires while you're at it.
Okay, all right, so that's something we can take into consideration. Ken, in this scenario, if the applicant wants to respond, what's the order for that?
Yeah, let's get all of the public comments out first, and then the applicant can respond.
Great. Okay, thank you.
We're looking for hands. Hang on.
Mm-hmm.
Not seeing any hands. There's a lot of folks, but not seeing any hands. We're clear.
Wow. Okay. So we have no more hands. There's a lot of folks. I guess they're just curious about this this item. So we have no more public. Is that right? And no more no emails have come in either.
Okay. All right. So with that, I'll close the public comment. I'll give the applicant a chance if they want to respond to the comment about burying the electrical cable.
So the electrical lines, double checking you can hear me again.
We can hear you. Thank you.
The electrical lines on this, there are no electrical lines on this side of the street existing. There are some on the other side of the street that are both in front of the senior housing project and our project. And we do not plan to underground those. Are not required. We did voluntarily underground along Ignacio Valley Road, but if we did it in front of our parking lot, they'd be above ground in front of the senior housing, go down below and go right back up. And with the landscaping we plant or will be planting out there, we think over time that will screen those a little bit better.
Okay. All right.
And
so
if I could ask one quick question to indulge us. The video Sam mentioned is like 60 seconds long. It might help your deliberations for giving the context all the way around the building. Your call, but it is literally, Sam, 60 or 90 seconds.
Right. But who has it? I don't know. I don't have it.
The city had it.
The city has it. Alan, is it okay to show or not? It's up to you guys.
The video fly through.
Yeah.
Yeah. Chip, can you launch that, please?
So share my screen.
So yeah, if that's amenable to Chair Case and the other commissioners, we will have to open and close the public hearing after the presentation, though.
I have mixed emotions. I know they're a lot of work, so I don't want to tell you I don't want to see it, but I did see a lot of the renderings, and I feel confident that I understand what's occurring outside the building. So I'd actually look to my other commissioners. Raise your hand if you want to see it. I see no hands. Okay, so I appreciate the work you guys did. I don't mean to make you feel as though, we don't appreciate it, but you did pretty well with the presentation, so I think we're confident. Thank you, though, for the effort. Okay, so with that, I'm going to take it back to our commissioners for our comments, bearing in mind that they're seeking their final DRC approval regarding the tree removals, some feedback on the art, and something else I'm forgetting in this moment, but those items. So who'd like to start us off this evening?
I'll go.
Right.
It's good to get a big, long presentation. I really wanted to concentrate on the changes because I think we've all put a lot of input into the building originally. So I appreciate the list of all the things that you did that were in response to our comments from last time. And the biggest one for me was the kind of panels and the insets of the secondary windows. But, because they're inset 6 inches, and I want to make sure on the final drawings that the staff checks that, I think it'll be fine. It gives a nice shadow line, and I think it looks better. And it is occurring on 3 elevations, so I think it's consistent. I'm really glad with what you did with the outdoor spaces, the addition of new tile, the having handicap spaces all over the place. Even the finish of the linear accelerator looks fine to me. As far as the art locations, I think along the north side where Muir Way is, where people come in and experiencing it as they come into the building. But I agree with Casey, some of it can be in a couple of different spots, but it really depends on the artist. I've always struggled with this idea. I mean, even on that stair tower that Brian was talking about, you could do a large piece there that would be a nod to the neighborhood. I mean, it really depends on who the artist is. But in this case, I do believe having it down near human level as people are walking around makes more sense. So I wouldn't put it on the east side. I think along the meditation garden and along John Muir make the most sense. I have no issues with the building. I think it's fine. And I'm okay with the stair tower. I think it's, I understand what you have to do when you have a fireproof stair tower. So no issues there at all. So I'm fine moving the project forward and approving it.
Okay, thank you. I see Carlos leaning forward. I'll pick on you. What are your comments?
Well, I'm very pleased with the integration of this building with the landscape and the open spaces. I find it very fortunate that it also integrates so well with La Casa Villa and with the existing buildings. And the open spaces are a great addition to our open spaces stock in Walnut Creek. So I really appreciate all the effort that was put into this. On the art issue, I have to coincide with what my fellow commissioners have said. It all depends on what art we're going to be using. It's going to depend on the artist as well. And it's got to be visible. I mean, if you're walking those paths, it has to be central to the paths. I mean, people have to enjoy it and find it and they shouldn't have to look for it. So I'm really comfortable with this project and I think we should move forward with it.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Krelling?
Sure. So during the study session, I had proposed thinking about using those metal panels on the La Casa Villa side. And I know you guys chose not to go that way, and I wouldn't, go, gee, I don't give support for the project because of that. But I just want to explain a little bit more what my thinking was and going through everything the second time. This building overall is a beautiful building. I'm very supportive of the building and the use. I think it's a great add to the community in the partnership with UCSF, et cetera. The thing that sort of struck me is it's like the really attractive side of this building is facing inwards to the campus as opposed to facing the street. Whereas if you look at the hospital tower and the addition that was done not that long ago, it's prominent front and center to its street, Ignacio. So it just felt a little bit backwards to me. So then I was like, am I just feeling this way for no reason whatsoever? Is there something that would back up, my thought? So I'll just point out, and I'm doing this just for the record, we do have a design review guideline under commercial architecture. And it basically says rear and side facades, if visible from public streets or neighboring properties, should be carefully designed with similar detailing and should be compatible with the principal facades of the building. all elevations of the building will be evaluated in design review. That being said, the La Casa Villa side is still a really good looking building or facade to me. Problem is, you made the other side that faces inside so attractive, and I think that's really just very attractive. And I think when people drive up or walk up on the John Muir Boulevard side, there's going to be wow factor to it. And I was just looking to see if we can get a little more wow factor on the other side. I'm just one commissioner. It's just something I felt like sharing, but overall, absolutely support this project. I think overall, it's really a fabulous building and is going to go to a fabulous use for the community. So I'm very supportive.
Okay, and Commissioner Killian, please.
Yeah, I have no additional comments regarding the art. It's a public art, so I think it ought to be put in a place where the most public can see it. But again, as Dar stated, until you have the art piece, I think it's kind of ridiculous to say it's going to go in XYZ because it all depends on the art piece. But I'm in favor of the project.
Okay, so in a perfect world, again, I'm going to keep doing that. I would love for the artists to have the opportunity to explore the whole site and anywhere that they think is appropriate. If I have to choose my least favorite spot, just on my theme for tonight, I would like it to be less about the car and like vehicular entries and more about where the neighbors or patients might be experiencing it. So, and that doesn't mean to control the scale. I don't mind it hypothetically, being larger than human scale, but I think that it's visual interaction geared towards somebody who's not in a car would be my preference. I made some comments about the circulation and access from the parking lot, and I saw the feedback on that, which I completely understand, and I appreciate that you showed the accessible stalls and how those are being highly considered. So I appreciate that revision, and I also think that the improvements to the outdoor spaces make them feel a little less like sunken and dark, which I also appreciate. I had no concerns about the tree removal. I mean, it's unfortunate, but I also trust that you guys would be keeping it if you could. I think we all usually want to keep those big trees. And so if it made sense, I think you would be doing it. And yeah, I'm hoping, Alan, that covers what we needed to cover for you, but it sounds like the group is willing to make moves on sending this one elsewhere, giving that final approval. So is there a motion to be made this evening?
I'll make a motion that we approve application number Y20-063 and with the conditions as outlined in the staff report.
I see Commissioner Gorney seconding, but he's muted. Does that count?
I will second that.
Great. Oh, I like the cat, Alan.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Commissioner Killian?
Yes.
Commissioner Gorney?
Yes.
Commissioner Krelling?
You're muted, Charles.
Oh,
I'm sorry. Yes.
thank you. Vice Chair Valeo?
Yes.
And Chair Case?
Yeah.
Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, so thank you. We appreciate your time. And at this point, we'll move on to item 5, which is our commission considerations. So this portion of the agenda is for items. Oh, I'm sorry. Are you waving goodbye?
Yeah, thanks.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
All right. I was like, I see a hand. All right. So commission
For
consideration.
a minute there, I thought we should keep the project going on so that Alan would have to stay and not retire.
Yeah.
I started this project 20 years ago when he was still in high school, so I miss him very much.
Can we get a motion on that?
You're a funny guy.
Yes, Madam Chair, we've got no items under commission considerations.
All right, then we'll move to item 6, commission member and staff reports or announcements. Anything this evening?
Alan's leaving.
I know, Alan, bye. We'll miss you.
Yes, I am. I believe that was the last, or this is the last staff report I wrote for the Design Review Commission.
Wow.
So, wow. Yeah, I get to go to Planning Commission next week and City Council a couple of weeks from now. So I'm partying on that. But I will speak to your decision-making body again very soon.
Good.
With my own words, not on, no, anyway, that'll be forthcoming. So, thank you.
Thanks, Alan.
Thank you, Alan. We'll miss you.
Great work, Alan. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else for commission member staff reports or announcements?
I've got none.
Okay, then we move to adjournment.
Bye. Thank you,
everybody.
Okay, good night, guys.
Good night.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
See you later.